Hi guys, welcome or welcome back. Thank you so much for being here, for all of your support. It's so greatly appreciated. Please like, subscribe, and comment if you haven't yet. It really helps me out, especially because I'm still such a small channel and because YouTube's not really a fan of the true crime community. So that really helps me to get my videos pushed out into the algorithm. With that, I hope everybody's having a great day and that you're all happy and healthy, and let's get started. Hi guys, welcome or welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate it. I appreciate it so much. I truly appreciate it so much. Let me just put out my disclaimer that please don't take what I say as fact. Please always do your own research. Please understand that this is a tough one to listen to. So if you think that it's going to be too difficult for you, then click off and I will catch you at another one. Please take care of yourself because that's obviously more important. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so. It really helps me out. And with that, let's get started. 42-year-old Julia Rawson was described as somebody that loved life and was friendly to everybody that she came into contact with. She loved nature and she would grow her own vegetables. Her best friend for more than 25 years said that you could be at your lowest and 5 minutes with Julia, you would feel high as a kite. Julia, along with her best friend and partner Elaine, had a stall at Dudley Market where they would sell pagan artifacts for extra money. Well, for income. Julia and Elaine had been together for 2 decades. And in 2019, they had begun to make plans to move in together. Actually, they had begun to make plans to move back in together because they were together and then they took a break from each other and then they rekindled their love. So they were making plans to move back in together. Julia was in a band. She was in a rock band. And her outgoing personality, or friendly and outgoing personality, made her very well known in Dublin. And she would often go to pubs to support local bands that were playing. 25-year-old Nathan Maynard Ellis and his 30-year-old boyfriend David Leslie were hardcore. Like, obviously, if you subscribe to this channel, you like true crime. I love true crime. These people were hardcore fans. Their home contained live snakes and tanks, spiders on the walls, gory homemade masks of characters in films, a huge Good Guys doll from the Child's Play videos, from the Child's Play movies, Chucky, huge Good Guys doll. The bookshelves were just lined with books and movies of Jeffrey Dahmer, Ted Bundy, you name it. Saturday, May 11th, 2019. Julia and Elaine go out for the day. They have a great day together. They're out and about all day long and perfect day. So as the day drew to a close, Elaine wanted to go home and she wanted to go to sleep. Julia did not want her night to end. She was having a great day and she was just like, she wasn't ready for her night to end. Elaine was fine with this. So let me just put that out there. Elaine was not, she was okay with this. So they say goodbye to each other and they board separate buses, and they go on their way. Elaine goes home to go to sleep. Julia got on the wrong bus, but it wouldn't actually be a big deal because she would just end up back in Dudley, which is where she was from and where she knows a bunch of people. So she decided to go to her local pub, the Bottle and Cork pub, okay? She'd been at the pub for a few hours because, remember, she had friends that hung out there, so she figured she's going to run into somebody that she knows. And I guess it wouldn't matter anyway because she was so outgoing and friendly that she just made friends with people. Julia had been at the pub for a few hours. before stranger Nathan Maynard Ellis walked into the pub at 10:47 p.m. Okay, he walks in, he sits down at the bar, he's all by himself. So Julie, being the friendly, outgoing, sweet person that she is, strikes up a conversation with him, tells him to, you know, come hang out with her, come talk to her. Not because because she was a nice person. She was a nice person. She was a friendly person, and she didn't want anybody to feel alone. So she would end up keeping him company till the bar closed. And there's CCTV footage to corroborate all of this. At 2 a.m., Julia is seen leaving the pub with Nathan, and the two get into a taxi together. Okay. It is said that Nathan has a form of autism called Asperger's. So, before we go any further, let me just say that I work very closely with the autism community. I am very passionate about the autism community, and please do not be mistaken. This does not define people with autism or Asperger's. This is not who they are. They generally do not commit these types of horrific crimes, okay? So please do not think that these two are linked in any type of way. If you are on the autism spectrum, that you most likely have a tendency to do this, because that's simply not true. So I want to put that out there before we continue on, because I'm very passionate about the autism community. I have worked in the autism community for a very long time, and they are some of the sweetest, most loving people that you will ever come into contact with. I promise you. Okay, so moving on. Nathan was a very antisocial person, okay? His mental health issues, along with his disdain for females, made him very well known to social services. Nathan is said to have had very dark thoughts that would focus primarily on women. Okay? The exact chain of events that went on after Julia entered Nathan's apartment is unclear. Nobody truly knows, okay? Because of what happened to her and how she was found. We're going to get into all of that. I can only hope that her death came quickly and painlessly, but nobody knows. So the following morning, Elaine wakes up and she grows very concerned when she realizes that Julia has not answered any of her messages or any of her texts. Elaine would first attempt to retrace Julia's steps to see if she could find any type of clues that would lead her to Julia. And because Julia and Elaine were in contact, and Elaine knew where Julia was that night, it was easy for her to retrace her steps, which is why, especially if you're going out alone, you should always let somebody know where you are and what you're doing. So Elaine would trace Julia's steps, and she would come up completely empty. So after this, she calls the police, and an investigation begins. Police go to the pub, and they pull the CCTV footage from that night. They see Julia, and they see Nathan, who at the time was an unidentified male. But they see them on CCTV together, hanging out, then they see them leave the bar together. Julia's friends would take to social media, and they would hang up posters, asking for any information from anybody about Julia's whereabouts, or if they know anything, or if they see anything, just begging for any kind of information. But what would crack this case wide open is the CCTV stills that police would pass on to community support offices. May 22nd, 2019, 10 days after Julia goes missing, a security guard at a shopping plaza phones police to tell them that there's an individual at the shopping plaza that matches the description of the person that they're looking for in regards to Julia's case. So police go down to the shopping center and they find Nathan and his boyfriend and they question them, okay? Oh, the security guard would also tell police that he was positive that this was them because the tattoos on Nathan's arms matched, which was his dead giveaway. So, police go down to the shopping center. They find Nathan and his boyfriend. They speak to him. Of course, they deny anything. They claim that they've never even met Julia.
Looking for a female missing person who's been missing for about 11 days. Okay. We've got pictures on CCTV with someone that matches your description with her, so we just want to get some details from her.
11 days?
She's been missing for 11 days, so obviously we need to find her. Okay. And because you look like the person we've seen on CCTV, we just get some details off you, alright?
I'll probably chop all my hair off.
What's the name of her?
Julia Rawsom.
Who?
Julia.
Julia? Julia Wilson?
Rawsom.
Rawson.
Do you know anyone by that name?
The only women I know are just my family or his family, although.
So, not surprisingly, or not shockingly, police are not buying what these two are selling. So they arrest Nathan and David on suspicion of kidnapping. On suspicion of kidnapping Julia, because right now that's all they can do, because they haven't actually found her yet. So you can't say that she's alive or not alive. After the arrest, the officers would do a search of Nathan and David's apartment, and that's where they would find all their memorabilia. A stone's throw away from their apartment is Birmingham Canal, okay? And then a short walk from there is Victoria Park. And on the other side of that is a large wasteland. I like, basically like a garbage dump, okay? So this is a lot of area for police to cover. It's also a perfect place for two people to hide things. Because it's such a large area, it's the perfect place to hide things like a body. Because there was no CCTV around the home of Nathan and David, police were not able to confirm what time they arrived at the apartment and when or if Julia, actually I should say, when, if, or how Julia left the apartment, because there's no CCTV. After their arrests, their arrests went public, a female witness would come forward to tell her story about her run-ins with Nathan. She would say that Nathan on several occasions in the past. So after this witness comes forward, police are confident that they have the right person in custody. They check Julia's phone and bank accounts, and neither one of them have been used since the night that she disappeared. Their first real true break would come from more CCTV footage of Nathan and Daniel walking along the canal carrying black garbage bags. They would be spotted doing this on several occasions. While police searched their apartment, they would find a blood stain under a new carpet. Okay. And then the salesman that sold them the carpet would tell police that he also sold them a brand new couch right after Julia went missing. So he sold them the rug and the couch right after Julia goes missing. That's not sus at all. So police want to obviously know, well, then where's the old rug and where's the old couch? They would once again find CCTV footage that would show Nathan and David dumping the carpet and dumping the couch in a wasteland. This would be a month and a half later because a witness would come forward and tell police that he spotted them doing this while he was on his lunch break having a cigarette outside. He was outside smoking a cigarette and he happened to spot the two of them doing this.
Julia Rawsom was reported missing on the 14th of May 2019. She was reported missing by a friend, having last been seen on the Saturday late afternoon. Following her report of missing to West Midlands Police, a missing person inquiry commenced, and officers from the locate team did all those things that you would expect officers to do when they're trying to identify where a person could be. Those inquiries led to CCTV inquiries down within the town centre of Dudley, and CCTV was obtained from the Bottle and Cork public house, and within that footage Julia was seen to be in the pub on the Saturday evening, and it was at this location that she met up with the male who we now know to be Nathan Maynard Ellis.
While searching the wasteland, police would find 2 bags that contained body parts, which were later identified as Julia's. More bags would be found at different locations, and again, it would end up being determined that they belonged to Julia. 11 separate pieces. She was cut into 11 separate pieces. Some cuts were professional, while some cuts were amateur. So police determined from that there were 2 people that were doing this. They concluded that Nathan was the one that was doing the professional cuts because Nathan had past experience with cutting up animals, and David was the one that was doing the amateur cuts. More evidence would be found at Nathan's mother's house in a garden incinerator. Nathan's mom had a garden incinerator, and inside there they would find blood, clothing, and DNA belonging to Julia. So after they're presented with all this evidence, Nathan and David would say that yes, they did hang out with her that night, and yes, they did know that she was dead, but they would adamantly deny that they had anything to do with this death, and that they had no idea who was responsible for it. Because of the dismemberment, pathologists were unable to determine the time or the cause of death. They were only able to conclude, which is, I don't know, this was really they were only able to conclude that Julia died between May 12th and May 14th of 2019. So that would mean that there's a possibility that Julia was stuck there in this house of horrors for 2 days. That's a possibility. That's a huge possibility, because they can't determine, because she was cut into so many pieces, and because they didn't find her for, I think it's 45 days or something. They didn't find her for quite a while. And neither of the men would confirm how or when Julia died. because they still maintain their innocence. They still maintain their innocence to this day. They said they are not guilty. So, and even though there's a mountain of evidence against them, they are steadfast that they did not do this. So obviously, no, they're never going to get the answers unless these two decide to talk at some point.
We were able to view cameras situated along the canal, and what these cameras demonstrated is there was movement from Nathan and David's flat. During the daylight, it was quite clear that it was them on that footage, walking away from the flat, on many occasions carrying carrier bags by their side, just casually walking along the canal, walking to, between the destinations that we'd become aware of quite early on in the investigation. It became apparent that at some point in the previous 2 weeks, and we believe this to have been on the Sunday, the 12th of May, that Nathan and David were present together and were present in the back garden burning items in an incinerator bin. Items of clothing that were examined and ultimately identified to have spots of blood on them, and the DNA from that blood came back as Julia's. And a breakthrough came on lifting the carpet in the living room, and underneath the underlay there was a stain found. And when this stain was tested, it tested positive for blood. So that sample was sent away so that we could identify where that blood came from. But clearly, finding blood underneath carpet was a significant event within the investigation, and gave us the first indication that it was at that location that Julia came to harm.
Nathan and David's trial would last a month, and it would begin in mid-2020. This is a law that Nathan would end up hearing about when he was performing jury duty on a different case. Nathan's mother, which, bravo to you, Mom. Okay, bravo to you. Nathan's mother would end up testifying against him, and she would tell the court about his violent past, along confirming that Nathan and David had burned their bloody clothes in her garden incinerator. So, needless to say, both men were found guilty. Nathan Ellis was sentenced to life with a minimum of 30 years, okay? And he was found guilty of preventing the court of justice, preventing the burial of a body, and 4 counts of rape in regards to the female witness that came forward, which I'm super happy that she got some sort of justice. David Leasley was giving a life sentence with a minimum of 19 years for preventing the court justice and preventing the burial of a body. During the search, officers also found an array of knives, saws, axes, and other types of blades in the couple's tiny apartment. There were 4 different recoveries of Julia, okay? Investigators would actually say that these two wrapped Julia so well, okay, that even the dogs, even police dogs that are trained to do this, could not pick up Julia's scent, which is why it took so long for her to get found, which is why flies and maggots didn't flock to her body parts to feed on, because they were wrapped so well that they didn't pick up the scent, that they couldn't smell them. It's crazy. But yeah, detective said that. I'll try to put that in for you so you can see it. 4 of her body parts were found at one site and 7 at another, and they were all placed in weighted down bags. Her head, hands, and feet were found on June 12th and June 29th of 2019.
The body parts were wrapped in black material, and they were very, very well wrapped and preserved, to the point where even on a hot summer's day there were no flies attracted to one of the areas where Julia was disposed of, where there were some body parts. So that gives you an idea. There was no scent given off for dogs to pick up on. There was no flies for us to indicate on. Ultimately, one of the body parts was exposed slightly, but you couldn't see it. Now, it was a specialist search dog that picked up on the scent from that first body part that led us to that location, which was not visible to the naked eye at all.
At sentencing, the judge had said that he was confident that he was sure that both of the defendants had repeatedly struck Julia in the head with weapons and had engaged in a cool, calm, and thorough cover-up. He says that Nathan Ellis was basically the ringleader, and that he decided that he was going to Julia before they even got to the apartment. While they were still in the taxi cab, he is confident that Nathan had already decided that he was going to do this to Julia. The judge tells David Leasley, quote, "I am sure that you were in the thrall to Maynard Ellis and would do, and that night did his bidding," end quote. He goes on to say, "I accept that Maynard Ellis was playing a leading role through all of this, but at times you were giving him your unquestioning support. Maynard Ellis has shown a significant degree of premeditation, describing the decision to dismember and hide the body as a terrible and comprehensive act to defilement and indignity," with the judge adding, "Only you two know just what happened that night in that flat, but neither has told the truth." And I would concur with that one. So that's that, guys. Thank you so much for being here. I truly, truly appreciate it. Please subscribe if you haven't. Please, it would mean so much to me, really would. Leave me a like, leave me a comment, let me know what you thought. If you have any suggestions, please, please, please let me know. I decided early on in this that I didn't want to be that channel that covered like Chris Watts or Gabby Petito's or Jodi Arias's or Casey Anthony's. I want to be that channel that covers the underdogs, that gives the voice to the victims that are not high profile, that basically barely get their story out there. So if you know of any stories, please let me know. Please subscribe, please ring the notification bell so that you know when I upload. And that's it. Until next time, guys, thank you so much. I love you all. I truly do. And